a following robot? Yeah. Come on up. You want to use it?
What does it do?
It just follows. So we're going through the mall. We're just there with the Gita to try and get some use cases of actually shopping in a mall. We were going to grab some sneakers and some other gear. We're going through, everything is going great. People are like, whoa, what's that? And all of a sudden someone comes up and says, excuse me, can you stop recording? I need to talk with you. And we've been a lot of other places in which people do that. And they work for the organization and they just want more information about what it is so that they can show their patrons or their constituents that they're part of this like new technology and showing that it can be used. This was not the case in this scenario. It was immediately apparent that we were a threat. We were perceived as a threat to either the tenants of the mall, aka the stores, or the people that are going to those stores. We had a nice conversation. It was all very nice, but they would not let us leave until security got there to escort us out. What's really interesting about this case is that it really highlights, and we didn't plan on this at all, this just happened. And it really shows that there's still that friction when you introduce anything new, maybe not anything, but when new things are introduced, especially technology, where it typically isn't seen. Like the most technological thing or machine that you're gonna see in a mall is a motorized scooter for accessibility purposes. So when you start to see a robot following somebody through the mall, this is a different scenario, a different use case that they're not accustomed to. And this is an established organization with property management responsibilities and ownership around the world. This is a global company. These notions of risk and making sure that they don't put their stakeholders, including themselves, internal stakeholders, management, leadership, that they don't face unnecessary risk. It's easier for them to turn something away than to learn more about it and see how it could actually enhance the experience for their patrons or even for their own operations. We've also gone to Logan's Candies. In a previous episode, we showed the owner of Logan's Candies. He was actually in the back doing other work, noticed on the security camera that this robot came into his shop, and he very easily could have said, oh, this is not a good idea. It's a very small, confined area. You should probably take that thing somewhere else. But he didn't. He actually walked right up to it, paired to it, and started using it around his shop. And this is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction the size of a mall. And the aisleways within it are a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the aisleways in a mall. Just a completely different mindset. There's much higher acute risk for Logan's to be using this product in their environment than it is for people to use it in the mall. We also know of a grocery store chain here in Southern California in which we are trying to show not only how it can be used for operational aspects of the grocery store, but for patrons to do grocery shopping in a more effective way as well. When we see that these different perspectives on risk and adoption, there's not a universal acceptance of technology. And that's really important to understand and to continue to explore. It really takes a lot of extra effort from those that are introducing the technology into the marketplace if they desire to have a sustained and amiable presence in that market, to ensure that they take a complete and comprehensive look at all the stakeholders that are impacted with the use of that piece of technology in the places, the environments that they're gonna try and use it. That is seemingly unfair, an unfair burden to the technologists. But at the same time, from a societal perspective, it seems that's only what should be expected. Another example is with some of the scooter programs, electric e-scooters that are around the world, these micro-mobility solutions. Some of the companies had a model where they just came into communities with no prior arrangement and dumped them in the community and said, deal with this. And then we started to see around the world, municipalities, governments put restrictions on that practice because it was a nuisance on the sidewalk, safety issues, lots of different things. There needs to be a holistic way to understand how the product or service that is being introduced really can impact beyond what the intended use or outcome is expected to be. In the case of Gita, it is legally allowed to be used on the right-of-way, in streets, sidewalks, throughout the United States. Understanding the mall is private property, but if it already has the approval and use demonstrated in the public right-of-way, it really should be more on them to have an accurate depiction of risk for their operations. And risk is not able to be calculated properly with a single dimension. You have to have at least two things. One is the likelihood of occurrence. So in the case of Gita in the mall, the likelihood of occurrence that we were there is 100%. The likelihood of occurrence that an issue would result from us being there is the part of the equation that really matters. It's not the fact that it's actually there, it's the fact that it's there and an ensuing incident results. Without even trying to understand that part of the equation, the people that could be getting some really good exposure and positive feedback from having these technologies in their place, in their mall, are automatically shutting it down and saying, no, that's not allowed. The bigger the organization, the more likely there are additional protocols to minimize risk, exposure to risk. And that translates into a culture that is more frequently going to bump heads when emerging anything is coming up. So the other factor besides occurrence is the consequence, the impact. So you multiply the likelihood of occurrence, in this case, very, very small, times the impact. And this robot goes very slow. It has mechanisms. It is not to say an injury could never occur, but the types of injuries, whether to physical property or humans or other living things, would be relatively minor in most of the scenarios. You have to look at all of those things and not just run away or throw up the risk shield automatically. We learned a lot with this episode that we didn't expect to learn. This was, I think, a really important topic. Through this series, we're really trying to explore where these intersections of human activity and technology intersect, so ultimately both can thrive in their appropriate way. And this, I really do think, was one of those lessons that we didn't anticipate to have to feel or live through, and then actually did. You'll see in the rest of the video here the response of some of the stakeholders that you would think is contrary. That shows, an instant juxtaposition between those that are using the robot and those that are not necessarily aware of what the robot is and can do.
Yeah, a backup right there. Awesome. Thank you very much.
You have a business card?